Hello and welcome back to Courseline. Today we're going to look at a favourite, a Volkswagen Scirocco, particularly the Mk1. The Mk1 came out in 1974 and continued until 1981 when it was replaced with the Mk2 with the much rounder rear end. An interesting fact about the Scirocco, it actually came out 6 months before the Volkswagen Golf arrived. And in 1976, the GTI version arrived. In the summer of 76 actually, and the Golf had to wait until the autumn. Now, we're going to look at a UK brochure today. It's from 1978, and we can see that the GTIs in the UK came out much later. So let's dig in and have a look at that brochure and see what we can find. So here we go, that is the brochure from 1978 for the Volkswagen Scirocco. And you'll notice that these 70s Volkswagen brochures all had this colourful theme, as it were. We have previously looked at this Volkswagen LT one from 76, and you can see they all had their own colours, so they look good in the dealer showroom, if you will. If you do particularly want to look at this Volkswagen LT brochure, we've already featured it, so I'll put a bit of a link up there if you do actually want to watch that one instead. Anyway, we'll concentrate on the Volkswagen Scirocco. Put it the right way around, and we'll flick through it and see what we can see. Okay, so here we have it, the inside of that first page of the Scirocco. Those observant will notice that this is the GLS model. Strangely, for 78 in the UK, they only had the Scirocco GLS. Initially, it had an 85 brake horsepower, 1471cc engine, which was called the TS. And then they had a GL and a GLS with the 1588cc engine, but then they dropped the GL and then they only ended up with the GLS. So strange that this time they only had one version. Now the GLS had a velour interior, thick pile carpets and alloy wheels. Again, those observant will notice on this particular model it's showing a vehicle without alloy wheels, even though I've confirmed later in the brochure it does say alloy wheels are standard. So it's strange that it shows this non-alloy wheeled car being shown on the first page. It's almost like it's a lower spec car. But anyway, that's by the by. This is the car itself, and it's showing on there that it's the Scirocco from 1978, and it's a Giugiaro designed vehicle. I do think these first Mk1 Sciroccos were the best looking. The Mk2 wasn't bad, they kind of like rounded off the rear end, but I do think this is the kind of like the prettiest design of them all. Now it's showing that 85 brake horsepower 1.6 litre engine has a 0 to 60 time of 11 seconds and 109 miles per hour top speed, which for the late 70s I don't think was a particularly bad performance standard for this relatively cheap car. But anyway, we'll turn the page and see what else we can find. And here is that second page. And first of all, it's still showing that non-alloy wheeled version, but never mind. I'm sure that's a lower spec and shouldn't be there, but I kind of think they've just used the same car regardless. Even so, it's showing that it is a very practical hatchback car. Volkswagen really leapt on the train with the hatchbacks. They were becoming more and more wanted by the public, particularly the Golf kind of like became that sort of like hot hatch standard. The Scirocco too had a hatchback, making it, even though a two-door sporty looking car, it still had a hatchback. Although you will notice the sill height is very high on these early ones, making it quite a job to actually put any sort of heavy loads in the back. We'll look at the next page and see what we can see. There we can see the interior of the Scirocco on this particular page, and you can see it's a typical 70s cheaper sporting vehicle with that 3-spoke steering wheel, that tiny little manual gearbox, although there was an automatic option as well, a few extra gauges, etc., giving it that sort of a nice sporty feel, if you will. Also, it's showing on the steering wheel that sort of Wolfsburg badge. Wolfsburg, of course, being the home of Volkswagen. This particular one, it usually shows like a castle as well. It's kind of like a strange little castle on this particular one, but that's kind of like what it's trying to represent on here. To give it that sort of very much a Volkswagen heritage, if you will. Let's see what we can see on the next page. Okay, the interior continues on the next page. This a real 70s seat colour and design, this one. I'm not really sure how I particularly feel about that. It does look very dated. I much preferred it when the Volkswagens used to do kind of like the check seats. There were different colours you could get. This colour is sienna. Also, to me, it just looks brown. You could also get a parchment, which was like a light, almost white colour, and there was a black. I guess I would probably have gone for the black personally. I think this doesn't really give it the feel of being sporty to me. It's more like something you would have on a Rover, which is nothing wrong with that, but I personally don't think it really suits the car too well. But nevertheless, let me know in the comments anyway if you particularly like this interior, and we'll quickly move on to the next page. Okay, the next page is the typical Volkswagen brochure page. We keep seeing this in 70s Volkswagen brochures. They've got the car in various scenes, in this case driving all over the country. It's that same lower spec one without the alloy wheels, and it kind of gives us a clue. It looks like it's actually got a French number plate on there, so it's not even to UK specifications, which explains why it looks like a much lower spec vehicle. We'll move on to the next page. There isn't too much to look at there, and then we'll move on. Okay, on the next page, it's actually showing the correct vehicle. You can see the alloy wheels on there. Yeah, I guess they hope you didn't notice the other one, because this is the actual one, and it's actually saying on here Scirocco in one version, the GLS, which means luxury. So it's showing now that is just the only version that you could particularly get at this stage. Later on, of course, you could actually get the GTI in the UK. First there was a Storm version in the following year, 1979, and then the GTI itself in 1980. And like I says, the second generation then came out in 1981. The next page, again, it's one of them pictures that we always see in Volkswagen brochures in the 70s, the multiple shots, this time of a garage and being serviced. Owning a Volkswagen has always had its advantages. Some great pictures looking very 70s in them particular outfits. Arrived to the Scirocco technical specifications and equipment, and like I say, it shows the engine there, that 1.6, the 15 to 58 cc 4-cylinder inline engine, and the gearbox, which also has that sort of automatic option on there as well. Performances are shown in there, which we already looked at. You should be able to see them if you want to have a look. Then it comes to the equipment, all the standard equipment, and then there's only a few factory fitted optional equipments. You could have the automatic, like we mentioned, a laminated windscreen, 2 halogen fog lights, and a rear fog lamp. Of course, the rear fog lamp became mandatory later on. The next page is the colour chart. And here we have the Scirocco upholstery and colour combinations. This is always my favourite page, I must admit. The great thing about Volkswagen is they kind of like included it in the brochure. A lot of other manufacturers had a separate one and they kind of get lost. So it's nice to always see these in the Volkswagen brochure because you usually knew that they were there. We have these 3 cloth upholsteries in what they call a Genoa cord. The black, the parchment and that sienna which we saw earlier. And then we can see the actual colour combinations that you could get. So we have Mars Red, Brazil Brown Metallic. I don't think I ever saw one in Brazil Brown Metallic. A very 70s car. It could look quite cool today, I guess, but I'm not too sure about that. Anaconda Blue Metallic, Platinum Metallic, Pearl Metallic, Silver Metallic, and something they call Colibri or Colibri Green Metallic. Now it then goes on the bottom there to show the colour combinations you can have. So if you did want that brown interior, the only car you could have it with was the Pearl Metallic. That's sort of a gold looking car. The black cloth was just available on the Platinum Metallic and the Silver Metallic. All the rest had that parchment colour. And that concludes this brochure. Okay, so that concludes today's brochure review. So good and bad points about the Volkswagen Scirocco Mark 1. I think the main problem with the Mark 1 Scirocco was rust. Yeah, another 70s car that really suffered with rust problems. Rust on the top of the wings, rust in the sills, rust on the inner wings, rust on the tailgate, particularly rust around the windows, which was always a hard one to cure. So of course, if you are going to look for a Mark 1 Scirocco, if you can find one, certainly keep an eye out for rust. In fact, rust everywhere. They just rusted. They were rust buckets, even though there was a really nice design. Let me know what you think of the Mark 1 Scirocco in the comments there. Please do remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon for more cars and brochure reviews. Goodbye.